Today's lesson is on classifying polynomials. We're going to start with several vocabulary terms. The first is a monomial. Monomial. A monomial is an expression that is a number, a variable, or both. An expression that is a number, a variable, or possibly both. Most often both. So 4 is a monomial. It's got one term. It could be a variable, x. That is a monomial. Or it could have both. 3x squared is also a monomial. A polynomial is either a monomial, these are polynomials, or the sum or difference of two or more monomials. So if I have a bunch of monomials, or just one, or a couple, and I add or subtract them, that is a polynomial. So like 3x to the 7th minus 2x squared plus 5 minus 13x to the 22nd power. That is a polynomial. The degree of a monomial is the sum of the exponents of its variables. Most polynomials that you'll be looking at in Algebra 1 will just have one variable, all of them x here. So you'll just be looking at the exponent. The degree of a monomial is the sum of the exponents. So like 5x to the 9th. We've just got one exponent, it's 9. The degree of that monomial is 9. If you do happen to have more than one exponent, or more than one variable, 3x to the 3rd, y to the 5th. You would add the exponents. The degree of this monomial is 8. Three plus 5 gives us that degree of 8. A polynomial, remember, has a bunch of terms. The degree of the monomial is the sum of the exponents. The degree of the entire polynomial, which is what you'll be asked for most often, is the biggest degree of all the monomials. So you look at all the monomials, each term in the polynomial, whichever one has the highest degree is called the degree of the entire polynomial. So if I have 7x to the 8th minus 9x squared plus 5x to the 10th minus 3, you look at all the exponents, 8, 2, 10, 0. This is the same as like x to the 0 if there's no x there. So the biggest exponent is 10. So the degree of this polynomial would be 10. Polynomials most often are written in standard form. Standard form is when the exponents, the degrees of the monomial terms, are written from greatest to least. So this polynomial right here is not in standard form because my biggest exponent is 10 and then 8 and then 2 and then 0. And it's not in order from greatest to least. We could rewrite this so that it is in standard form. We would write the biggest exponent first, so 5x to the 10th. And then the next biggest is 8. So I've got positive 7x to the 8th. I've got minus 9x squared. And I've got minus 3. So again, standard form, the exponents start with the biggest one, 10, and work their way down, 10, 8, 2, 0. We said a monomial is one term. A polynomial with one term is called a monomial. If we have two terms, it can be classified as a binomial. And we also have something called a trinomial, which is if our polynomial has three terms. And the terms are the things in between the plus or the minus signs. So going back to that last example down here at the bottom, this one would have 1, 2, 3. This one has 4 terms. So it doesn't have a special name, monomial, binomial, trinomial. It's just considered a polynomial with 4 terms. All right, so in your notes, I want you to make the following chart. We're going to have a total of 5 columns. Label your first column polynomial. A polynomial is going to be given. We are going to state the degree of that polynomial and give it a name based on the degree. We are going to state how many terms the polynomial has and give it a name based on the number of terms. So our first polynomial is just the number 3. The number 3. Remember, the degree is the biggest exponent. Well, I don't have any x's. This is the same as 3 times x to the 0, because remember, x to the 0 is 1. 3 times 1 is the same thing as 3. So my highest exponent on my variables is 0. If the degree is 0, we call it a constant polynomial. Remember the number of terms, it's the things in between the plus and the minus. I just have one term here. And if it's one term, we just said that one term is called a monomial. Our next example is 2x plus 1. 2x plus 1. Degree is the highest exponent. I have an x, but there is no exponent on there. Remember, it's understood to have an exponent of 1 if it's not written there. Here I had no x's. I did not have an x to the first. Here I do have an x, but the exponent is missing. It's understood to be 1 in that case. If the degree is 1, we will always call it a linear function. Linear function. The reason for that is if I graph y equals that, the shape of that graph is a line. Y-intercepts 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. Notice the word lines right in linear there. We've got 2 terms. If we have 2 terms, it's not a monomial, it is a binomial. (3x squared minus 4x plus 1). 3x squared minus 4x plus 1. Degree is the highest exponent, which in this case is 2. If the degree is 2, we call it a quadratic function. Quadratic function. There are 3 terms to that polynomial, making it a trinomial. (9x cubed minus 10). 9x cubed minus 10. Highest power of x is 3. That's our degree. If the degree is 3, it is called cubic. That is a cubic function. Or or this is red, 9x cubed minus 10 to the third power is the same thing as cubed. We've got two terms. Two terms makes it a binomial. And the last one on our list looks like this. Negative 8x to the fourth. Negative 8x to the fourth. Degree is 4. If the degree is 4, that is called a quartic function. Quartic, which looks a lot like quadratic if I take out a couple of letters. There's one term making it a monomial. Our next example asks us to write each polynomial in standard form, then name each polynomial based on its degree and the number of terms that it has. Write in standard form, then name based on degree and number of terms. Standard form, remember, means we start with the biggest exponent and work our way down. So this one says 8 plus 7v minus 11v. The first thing we want to do before we do any of this is combine any like terms that we have. We've been combining like terms since chapter 2, I believe. These are like terms right here. Plus 7x and minus 11x. I'm sorry, plus 7v and minus 11v. 7v minus 11v is minus 4v. We need to make sure we are in standard form. Standard form, we start with the biggest exponent, which is understood to be a 1 there. So I should write the negative 4v first. And then this term has a degree of 0. So I write my plus 8. Negative 4v plus 8 is that polynomial in standard form. It says name it based on its degree, degree's highest exponent, which is understood to be a 1. If degree is 1, we call it a linear function. Oops. And there are 1, 2 terms, so we call it a binomial. It is a linear binomial. Number two says 3y minus 4 minus y cubed. 3y minus 4 minus y cubed. First, we try to combine any like terms. I have no like terms. 3y, 4, y to the third, there are none of those that have the same variable with the same exponent. I can't combine anything. So we are going to move on to writing in standard form. Biggest exponent is 3, so I'm going to write this term first. The negative sign with the y cubed stays with the y cubed. That's my biggest exponent. The next biggest exponent is 1. That's a positive 3y, so plus 3y. And then I've got my minus 4 right here. We are in standard form. The degree is 3. That is a cubic function. And there are 3 terms, so it is a cubic trinomial. And finally, number 3. Number 3 gives us 5x minus 2. 5x minus 2. Biggest exponent's 1, and then 2. Well, exponent's not 2. 1, and then 0. So it is already in standard form. We don't need to do anything to change it to standard form. And like this one here, it is a linear binomial. Highest power is 1, so linear, and there are 2 terms. that is classifying polynomials.